Almost 21 years to the day, Jeremy Strohmeyer murdered 7-year-old Sherrice Iverson. The convicted killer is now asking a judge for leniency.
It happened May 25th, 1997. This week, Strohmeyer was in a courtroom. Fox 5's Cindy Lundeberg explains why the 39-year-old hopes to one day walk free.
And we want to warn you, some of the details of the story are extremely graphic.
Jeremy set out that night to fulfill one of his sexual fantasies.
What you're about to hear
1, 2, 3, 4, 5
is Jeremy Strohmeyer describing how he murdered 7-year-old Sherrice Iverson, May 25th, 1997.
I took her into the stall, the biggest stall, the handicap stall. Keep her quiet. I choked her.
It happened at the Prima Donna Casino and Hotel, which is now the Prim Valley Resort.
I mean, I took his confession. I sat there and listened to him when he just described in explicit, brutal detail, first how he molested little Sherrice and then how he killed her. And as far as killing her, that was another one of the statements that he made during his confession, is he just wanted to see what it was like to kill somebody.
Homicide detective Phil Ramos still remembers responding to that scene.
The innocence of the victim, which is as innocent as you can possibly get it, how heinous the crime was itself, the brutality of the crime, and then the cavalier attitude of the killer.
Jeremy Strohmeyer, who was just 18 at the time, pled guilty to the crime to avoid the death penalty. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole.
I'm sorry for my part in the tragedy that took place that early morning. The tragedy that resulted in little Sherrice's untimely death.
But now, almost 21 years to the date, Strohmeyer is trying to change that sentence. His lawyers were in court this week arguing Strohmeyer's brain wasn't fully developed when he committed that crime, and they think the now 39-year-old should have his sentence changed to include the possibility of parole.
It's ridiculous because Jeremy Strohmeyer was anything but immature. I think he absolutely should have been put to death for this crime. And no doubt about it.
Cindy Lundeberg, Fox 5 News, local Las Vegas.
Strohmeyer's lawyers argue that he experienced trauma in his early life that affected his brain development.
He was adopted at a young age. His biological mother suffered mental illness. His adoptive family, his lawyers say, still love and support him.
A judge is expected to make a decision in the coming months.
What's going on, YouTube? I just felt that I needed to speak on this because it was very disturbing, but it wasn't disturbing necessarily because of what actually happened. It was disturbing because it shows the weakness of black men and the black community as a whole. Now, I didn't know anything about this case. In 1997, I was, 12 years old. 1997 was a very big year for news. Things I do remember about that year. I mean, there was just so much that happened in 1997. Princess Diana died. Biggie Smalls got shot. There was the North Hollywood bank shootout with the two heavily armed bank robbers with the body armor on that held off 300 Los Angeles and Southern California police for like half an hour in a movie-style shootout. What else happened? That was when that first string of school shootings started happening. That epidemic of school shootings started happening across the United States. Started in Paducah, Kentucky, and Pearl, Mississippi, where my dad was born. World famous fashion designer Gianni Versace got assassinated outside his mansion in Miami by some gay prostitute, and it was a crazy year. But I don't recall seeing anything about this case. And, you know, even though I was even at 12 years old, I was very into news and current events, you know, but at the same time, this was something that happened in Nevada. And it was something that at the time sparked a lot of outrage, a lot of controversy, and it did, for a brief period of time, make national headlines. Now, the reason why this story is back in the news is because this demon here, Jeremy Strohmeyer, the white boy with the California cheesing grin, his lawyers are petitioning for him to be eligible for parole, or for there to be a hearing to determine if he can get paroled out of prison. Which is funny because at the time that he murdered this little 7-year-old girl, Sherrice Iverson, he confessed to the crime. He confessed, as you saw in the news report, he confessed to every gruesome detail of how he lured this little girl into a bathroom, put her in a bathroom stall, raped her, and murdered her. And as a result of that, he was quickly convicted and sentenced to life in prison. He avoided the death penalty by confessing to the crime. And the judge in the case sentenced him to life without the possibility of parole. But now, 21 years later, 21 years after the fact, this son of a bitch is he has a new attorney team, and they're actually petitioning. See, and let me just say something, just before I even go into the meat of this video. Let me say that I understand that lawyers and attorneys have jobs to do, but I saw this interview on like the 20th anniversary of the end of the O.J. Simpson trial and drama, and they asked Robert Shapiro, one of the team of lawyers that became famous as a result of getting O.J. Simpson off in the murder case of his former wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and Ronald Goldman. They asked him, when you take a case, do you question, the innocence or guilt of your client? And being that a good attorney is a good investigator, just like a homicide detective, would be, do you accept or reject cases based on the merit or lack thereof of the client that wants you to represent them? And he very quickly said that he asks all of the clients that he represents at some stage of, starting the attorney-client process, are they guilty of the crime that they have committed? And he claims this, that he looks them right in the eye and he asks them that question. And of course, he's going to say that in a TV interview. But, he's one of the wealthiest American attorneys that, of recent time, that really of all time. He capitalized huge off of that case, not just the case itself, being paid by OJ, but the publicity around it. And since then, he's represented a lot of different celebrities as a result of becoming his own celebrity. And, I bring that up because if I was an attorney, okay, I understand that by law, everybody has the right to a fair trial and to be represented, in trial. Everybody has the right to have a lawyer, have an attorney present, that understands, legal documentation and wording and the process to make sure that they get, a fair hearing, a fair proceeding, and that they have a fair chance of being judged. I understand that. But if I was an attorney, okay, there are just certain cases that I simply could not take unless I was thoroughly convinced that that person was innocent of the crime. Okay? In this case, I simply could not. I could not. I don't care if this white boy had a wealthy family, that was willing to pay me $1 million. I don't think I could honestly live with my fucking self. I'd be afraid something was going to happen to me. You know what I'm saying? I could not represent somebody that confessed. Now, it'd be different if they were flat out denying it, and putting on a Hollywood, actor, Academy Award winning actors scene claiming that they had nothing to do with the crime. But when you blatantly, openly admit that you murdered and raped a small, innocent child, doesn't matter whether the child's black, white, whatever. I simply could not see myself standing next to that person, okay, without wanting to stick a pencil through the side of their head. And by pencil, I mean a sharpened pencil, okay? I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't live with myself. I couldn't go home at night, in my little mini struggle mansion with my BMW and Mercedes Benz outside, knowing that I got paid to represent, paid well, nonetheless, but got paid to represent someone who admitted to molesting and murdering a child. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. That's just me, though. Okay? Nonetheless, the reason why this case has come back up, from my understanding, as I said before, is because his lawyers are trying to petition a court in Nevada to get him out of prison and get him out of the life sentence that he oh so badly deserves. Now, what bothers me about this case more than anything is that I saw a video where, they were talking about what happened that night, that this little girl, Sherrice Iverson, was, lured into the bathroom, raped and murdered. And they said that she was roaming the halls. First of all, I didn't, because I've never been to a casino. Casinos for me are like strip clubs. I just don't see the point in going there and wasting my fucking money, frittering my damn hard-earned dollars away. I don't see the point. I don't see the point of it. Okay? But anyway, I did not even know that it was legal for small children, okay, or even people under the age of 18 to go into a casino. I thought that was strictly some adult stuff. I know children, or at least I hope children, can't go into strip clubs or brothels. My God, like, oh honey, yeah, wait here by the maiden. I'm gonna go upstairs and bang this chick. Then after that, we're gonna go to McDonald's and get you a Happy Meal. I mean, are you fucking serious? So, I didn't even know that was illegal. Okay. But apparently what happened on the night that this occurred, as you saw in the news video, and some of you may be already familiar with this case, is that this little girl, she was wandering the, casino floor and the halls of this casino in or near Las Vegas, Nevada. And this was happening while her father was playing on the slot machines and getting drunk. And her big brother was doing pretty much the same thing. Okay? And in the course of doing that, she met a stranger and his friend, Jeremy Strohmeyer, and his punk friend, David Cash. And Jeremy apparently began playing with the little girl in the hallway, and they started throwing stuff at each other or whatever, something like that, from what I ascertained. And then he was able to gain her confidence, I guess, pretending like he wanted to be a playmate with her, and then he lured her into this, in an effort to lure her into this bathroom where the tragedy occurred. Now, the other controversy, besides the fact of the tragedy of what happened, and obviously the racial dynamic of this being, this California surfer boy looking Southern California white boy, and this little black girl from South Central Los Angeles, was also the fact that Jeremy Strohmeyer's friend, David Cash, who was in the casino with him gambling before this occurred, went into the restroom with him and literally eyewitnessed and ear witnessed his friend raping and killing this child, confessed to seeing this, and he did nothing. As a matter of fact, he said that he felt like he wasn't obligated to do anything. Okay? I mean, so he wasn't charged with any crime, because at the time, under Nevada state law, it was not a crime not to report a serious crime if you witnessed it happening, So, and a lot of people have, suspected over the years that David Cash had something to do, that he participated in this, but unfortunately the police couldn't find anything to pin on this son of a bitch. So, you had these two, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold from Columbine looking and mentality white boys that, one of them wanted to kill somebody and the other one, was probably standing there fucking beaten off watching this terrible tragedy occur that his so-called friend was doing. And see, to be completely fair about this part, while very disturbing, very tragic, this is not what is so bothersome to me, okay? It's bothersome, but it's not so bothersome to me, and because we know that statistically, okay, most black children are killed, unfortunately, by black people, whether it be gang gunfire or some perverted uncle or some abusive parent, okay? And we've heard many monstrous stories about black, these black hood rats and these black degenerates, murdering little kids that are black, okay? So I'm not going to sit up here and pretend like, just because this motherfucker was white, that all of a sudden this is such a larger tragedy, even though it very much is so, than any other tragedy that has occurred with innocent black children getting killed, or any child getting killed, okay? But there are a couple of things that stood out to me about this. One was, the interesting dynamic of this, when you look at it, from a broad perspective, you realize that this case actually is a perfect representation, okay, of how weak-minded black men leave their communities, as a whole, vulnerable to attack and invasion from other motherfuckers, okay? And what I mean by that is, if you take this little girl's father and her big brother that was supposed to be protecting her, but instead they're off in the casino, probably flirting with hoes, getting drunk, gambling, and all that mess, while they leave this little girl, because they probably can't afford a babysitter, they leave this little girl to herself, to fend for herself. And she's just a little kid, she just wants to go around playing, and I remember being 7 years old. That's what really fucks with, I think, all of us. Like, at 7 years old, I couldn't remember anything. I couldn't imagine anything at 7 years old hurting me in this way. Because I was a kid, everything was fun to me. Everything was about playing and experimenting. I was just a little kid. I couldn't imagine an adult taking advantage of me and hurting me in this way. That's what really gets inside your fucking head when you think about shit like this. Because you remember being 7 years old. That's fucked up. Okay? But here these two idiots, these two buffoons, these two minstrels, these two shines are off getting drunk. I mean, if they wanted to do that, fine. They're grown-ass men. But you leave a child at home. I don't know where the mama was. You know what I'm saying? But you leave a child with a relative that you trust or something. Or in daycare or something. You don't take them to the fucking casino. But again, this is how Negroes operate. And then what really ticks me off is after this little girl was murdered, and after it made headlines all over the United States, when people found out what actually happened, the father of this little girl, he opted out. I mean, what a fucking crackhead, wino piece of deadbeat piece of shit. He opted out of suing the casino in exchange for $100, a free hotel room for a week, some liquor bottles. Look this shit up. I'm not kidding you. The agreement was he would get free liquor, a week free of a hotel room, $100 gift card or something like that, and that the casino would pay for his daughter's funeral expenses. And in exchange for that, he wouldn't get a lawyer to sue him. And by the time this story made national headlines, there were plenty of money-hungry lawyers that would have just been eating at the chance to represent this family and get millions of dollars. But this dad was such a piece of shit that he opted to get some fucking liquor bottles, a free hotel room, and $100 gift card. And that suggests to just how much of a substance abuse and just how hooked on and addicted to whatever he was hooked on and addicted to he actually fucking was. I mean, you would think the family of this little girl would be looking to, work some type of strings where this white boy went to prison to make sure he gets fucked up and fucked literally for life while he's in there. Do something to make sure that he hurts as bad as he hurt their little girl. And this is the best that they could fucking come up with? Are you fucking serious? But the weakness of the black male, that's one of the things that really stands out in this particular case. Okay? The other thing that stands out in this case to me is when I think about these swirling bimbos here on YouTube. And now you're starting to see it more and more when you go out and about. You don't even have to be in a major city. You see these black females that are swirling with white men. Now, again, we've been over this. People have a right to be with whoever they want to be with. We may not agree with it. You know what I'm saying? And in most cases, stuff like this doesn't happen. But it's not so much the black female, being with the white male. It's this mentality that the likes of the girl who swirls has, that's feeding the demented minds, the already demented, disturbed minds of black females that make up the majority of her audience. That the white man is somehow an alternative to the black man. And we've talked about this before on several occasions. That somehow the white man is the knight in shining armor. He's perfect. He's flawless in every way. He would never hurt you as a black woman. He would treat you as the queen you are. You can have his mixed race children, and then he's gonna pick you up and take you off to his castle. That is the part that really is disturbing. Okay, you want to go be with a white man, you want to go, be, well, we ain't gonna go there on YouTube. Like I said, I'm slipping, y'all. I'm slipping. But you want to go do what you want to do with white men? Okay, that's fine. But to put them on some type of pedestal, given the history of the white man, okay, not just with black people, but all around the fucking world, okay? The most infamous serial killers in American and really world history have been white men. many of whom preyed on small children like Sherrice Iverson. As a matter of fact, this motherfucker Jeremy Strohmeyer, who was only 18 when this shit happened, he even came out and said that the reason why he killed little Sherrice was because he just wanted to see what it was like to kill somebody. It's just like Richard Ramirez said when they caught up with him. He said, I'm not crazy. I'm just into watching people die. And you actually have motherfuckers out there like that, okay? That will take a person's life like it's balling up an empty potato chip bag and throwing it in the trash, okay? And yet, we can go down the list, man. Hitler, the Ku Klux Klan, all these mass murderers like the dude that opened fire on the Vegas Strip and shot like 1,000 people. I mean, we could go down, Jeffrey Dahmer. We can go down the list, man, all day, every day. Gary Ridgway, the damn Green River Killer, Ted Bundy. And yet, here these demented, seriously disturbed, conniving ass, hypocrite black females are talking about the white man is the alternative. He's the knight in shining armor that's going to rescue you from Blackistan. If you're not careful, while trying to be rescued from Blackistan, you may wind up bagged up, cut up, and in a trash can. I mean, the delusional thinking of these femicunts, it just knows no bounds. It never ceases to amaze, okay? When you look at this, and what's funny is, when I look at guys like Jeremy Strohmeyer, okay? When I look at punks like this, it reminds me of the exact, when you look at, he looks like this, I know this was 20 years ago, but he looks like your typical, everyday, run-of-the-mill, Southern California, surfer boy white dude, right? These demented black bimbos now would feel so comfortable around a white boy like this if they didn't know who he was. Some of them, even if they did know who he was, but that's a subject we're not going to even touch here on YouTube. If I got to go there, we're going to have to go over to Black Avenger TV or BitChute or something. We ain't going to touch that here. Okay? But he'd be the exact type of dude. And I thought of a frightening scenario the other day. I said, imagine you have a white dude like a Jeffrey Dahmer, only he's into, killing, targeting for victims, black females instead of gay black males. And, he's relatively handsome, clean-cut looking guy, like a lot of these serial killers are. And he decides to create, some ad on a date on, one of these dating sites or on Facebook, saying that he only dates black women, and he's showing himself off, modeling with his shirt off, showing his chiseled abs and all that shit. And you already know the amount of black pussy that's going to be thrown at him. In the meantime, in the back shed somewhere, he has, his victims one by one as they come over his house, thinking they're going to do one thing, only to find out that, he taking them out back, cutting them up and burying them under the ground. I said to myself, between the no snitch policy of the black community and how weak-minded these females are, do you know how many kills a white serial killer could rack up on black females before he finally got caught? That is frightening. That is absolutely frightening thought right there. Again, when it's not just Jeremy Strohmeyer. When you look at Jeffrey Dahmer, okay, he was, raping and murdering mostly gay black men. But this was a white boy in the middle of the poor black section of Milwaukee. Not the part of Milwaukee where white people live. He was in the part of Milwaukee that is considered the hood, okay? Now, they say he lived there because he couldn't afford to live nowhere else because he couldn't hold down a job. But I think he lived there, and a lot of brothers had brought that up when I made a video about it a few months back, was because that was an area where he could find easy targets, easy prey to feed his sexually perverse appetite for murder and cannibalism. And me and several other black male YouTubers have talked frequently about, you know, how black people just allow anybody to come in their communities. Now, of course, you know, this was neutral grounds in this case, this sad case with this little girl, Sherrice Iverson, you know what I'm saying? Because they were in a casino and you know, they just happened to meet. Everybody's in casino, you know, white, black, Hispanic, whatever. But when you take a step back and you look at the overall dynamic of this, nobody thought, you know, any casino is going to be crowded, especially at that time of night. Nobody seemed to think that, you know, seeing a white dude, you know, playing with a little braided hair black girl and luring her, following her into the women's restroom, nobody thought that was odd. Nobody noticed that. Nobody witnessed that. Nobody went in there to investigate. And his friend, David Cash, didn't give a fuck one way or the other. And yet here these black females are talking about how much the white man is the alternative to the black man. Let them keep it up. They're going, well, in all fairness, they already are finding out. But they're going to find out some more. This is a damn shame. And the way black people fail to protect their communities and their children is also a damn shame. Talk to you later, guys.